about them Cowboys? It's the Cowboys Squad, sponsored by Game Time. Everything Dallas Cowboys every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from America's team the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Cowboys Squad Show, starting now.
All right, we are getting close. The countdown to Cowboys training camp continues, and we are now less than a week away. It's just so good to say that. Welcome back to the Cowboys Squad Show. That is the co-host of the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast, Marcus Mosher, crushing it every day with Landon McCool, along with my co-host for the in-season Cowboys postcast, crushing it in his own right on radio as well, former Cowboys coach Glenn Stretch Smith. All right, coming up on today's show, we have even more rumors. Even as we get closer to training camp, we have more rankings and even another Micah Parsons update. Plus, it's a Throwback Thursday, and former Cowboys great Danny White is going to join the show as well, coming up at the bottom of the hour. Looking forward to talking with Danny. He is a great guy and really, I think, an underrated and underappreciated former Cowboys great. But right out of the gate, as I said, we are now less than a week away from the start of training camp. The Cowboys' 66th training camp begins on Monday in Oxnard. The players will take the field for the first time on Tuesday. But guys, one player is already there. DeMarvion Overshown, who tore his ACL, his MCL, and his PCL back in December against the Bengals, already working, hoping to return by Thanksgiving. But I just think that's just a nice way to set the tone, kind of get things going and send the message that, hey, let's get to work and let's get after it. And hopefully he will be back then.
Yeah, I mean, you can see why the Cowboys fell in love with Overshown during the pre-draft process, because the character is off the charts. The work ethic is unbelievable. This kid has just had some really bad luck in his first 2 years in the NFL. He gets hurt in a preseason game, and then he's on his way to becoming a Pro Bowl linebacker, maybe even better than that. And then he has that major knee injury. But we actually had an article that came out from ESPN earlier this week talking about the top linebackers in the league, and several NFL coaches said that he's one of the best already in the NFL. It's just that the injuries have gotten in the way. And now you wonder, going into year 3, how much these injuries might have zapped him of his athleticism, because this is a really special talent. And it's great to see him there. We're all hoping that he can make it back onto the field this season. We'll see.
I'm hoping he's setting the tone for his former teammate at the University of Texas, because that's really the guy I'm worried about. I'm already hearing some rumblings out of the building about the running back that they drafted and him being, kind of just borderline lazy, not in the building, doing his off-season workouts. So maybe he's saying, hey, one Longhorn to the other Longhorn, get your ass in here and let's get going a little bit, because I think that's a firm message that needs to be sent.
Can I ask you, Coach, real quick about that? Because it does seem like these teams get annoyed when these players are not working out at their facility and maybe they're working out somewhere else or back at their college. How much does that really matter?
Well, a lot, I think, when they don't know you, when they don't know what your work habits are, when they see you already in OTAs, kind of limping around as if to say, boy, my hamstrings bother me a little. Hey, I stayed out late last night. I'm not real sure I want to go through this workout right now. Okay, well, if you're injured, get over there with Britt Brown. Get over there with Jim Mauer. Well, I don't know. It's not really that bad. Well, now all of a sudden you created doubt in the organization. You created doubt with the coaching staff. Hey, if we're putting you in the game on this third down, can we count on you to go block that Sam linebacker? Can we count on you to pick up this guy from a blitz standpoint? And so from accountability standpoint, when they don't know who you are and you're already jackassing around, it's just the NFL. I mean, I realize college guys are getting paid, and I realize all of that, but I'm telling you, I'm just giving you right up front, I'm concerned about this pick out of the University of Texas, and I think he's got to create the doubt or eliminate the doubt that's in the room right now.
And for those, real quick, for those that are watching that may not know who you're talking about, Coach, what you're talking about, Jaden?
That's it. That's half of it. Go ahead and finish the other half.
Jaden Blue. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
So listen, Coach, here's the thing, though. I don't disagree with anything you're saying. But the first time he breaks off at like a 24-yard run in camp, we're going to forget about all the stuff, the nonsense in the offseason, right? Because that's kind of how it works, right? If you go out and you perform on the field and you play well, you can kind of ignore some of this off-field shenanigans.
Yeah, and again, to me, I don't know if it's off-field, stuff. I don't know if it's immaturity. I don't know if it's not understanding the NFL. I don't know if it's really not really understanding what your role is right now, which is as the number 3 guy. I'll flip it to the other side. The first time he tiptoes up in there and gets his nose bloodied, and let's see what happens.
Sure.
That surprises me to hear that a little bit, though, Coach. I would think, being a rookie running back and kind of reading the room, I would think you would have the mindset of, hey, I have a legit chance to be a starter. If I work hard and play hard and make a good showing, I could put myself in a really good position, considering the way the running back room stands going into training camp.
You're right. 5 years ago, that's not right now. You got guys that are making as much money coming out of college. They're making the same money. Let's quit trying to perfume this pig. We are creating a generation of kids who are making a lot of money in college, and now they're coming to the NFL. And are they going? I don't know how this is going to look. We've only been in this a few years, but I know this: are they going to take that same work ethic that they thought they had in college? They're going to take those same off-season habits. And by the way, you're better than 7 of the teams you play all year. Just before you ever even reach over and grab your ankles and stretch. So, in my mind, I think this is the first time I've heard it, and I heard this last night when I was talking to someone in the building, and it bothered me. It is bothering me. I don't like I don't like, as a daily guy that gets on, talks NFL and college ball, I don't like the sound of what I'm hearing coming out any more than I like the sound of, and I know this is the Cowboys show, but any more than I like the thought of Shamar Stewart, who gets drafted number 17 in the first round, deciding that, hey, I want to go back and kind of hang out over here at the Dixie Chicken and sashay around College Station, because I don't necessarily like the money or the guaranteed things that have been flashed at me from Cincinnati. How do you get yourself in a better position than getting picked number 17? But guess what? If he can go back and earn that money, and I'm not taking anything away from these young men. They should have been paid something 15 years ago. But I'm going to get off my soapbox now. But at the end of the day, we are creating and setting the example for these young men that I don't think they really understand moving from one level to the next level and how fast the game is and how hard you got to train.
And I think in the case of like Jaden Blue, he's always been the fastest guy in the field, right? He's always been a 4.3 guy. So football has probably always come pretty easy to him. So I'll maybe this will be a little bit of a wake-up call when you get to training camp that, hey, everybody's pretty fast in the league, and I got to start working harder. And if he's not getting first-team reps and he's not getting a lot of opportunities, maybe that'll be something that he needs to kind of whip his butt into shape. We'll see. A lot of times it's hard to tell with these guys until you get them on the field. But if the Cowboys aren't thrilled with what they're kind of seeing already, it's not a great sign for a running back room that desperately needs his speed.
Yeah. I wonder too, sometimes I don't know if this is a collective thing or what, but as you guys know, the running back position has kind of taken a hit, even though there's still such a critical part of the game and part of the offense. But we've seen big money shift to the quarterbacks. Running backs don't get paid as much. There's kind of this perception, hey, you can just draft another one. They're replaceable. So their window has shrunk. Their prime earning window has shrunk. So, I sometimes wonder, is there kind of like this collective mindset, kind of this bitter mindset amongst running backs, like, hey, got our first deal. Let's just kind of, do what we have to get that second deal, get that one big contract that we can get and kind of go from. I hope not. That's just me speaking.
I'm probably the wrong guy to talk about this, Jeff, because I spearheaded this movement a little bit about 8 years ago when I bought the website runningbacksdon'tmatter.com. Because this is a true story, by the way. Then the NFL running backs had this summit to kind of talk about where the league was going. And you saw it, like these running backs across the league were being devalued. And that's why guys like Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry and Josh Jacobs were all hitting free agency and getting wide receiver 3 money. I do think the running game is still incredibly important. You have to be able to run the ball in the NFL. But I think the Cowboys have taken the approach that the runner maybe doesn't matter quite as much. They drafted a DeMarco Murray in the 3rd round. He was fantastic. They drafted a Tony Pollard, who was a slot receiver at Memphis, and turned him into a Pro Bowl running back. Rico Dowdle had 1,000 yards. He didn't even start the first half of the year. I think they believe if you have the right ecosystem on offense, the right quarterback, and the right offensive line, as long as you have an acceptable talent back there, it'll be okay.
What do you think, Coach?
Well, I mean, guys, football doesn't change. However, there's a lot of people that believe that we can go out and play Madden football with an NFL team. We can create running the ability to take one guy who's in the league and Tyreek Hill, and we can run him all the way across the formation in a 40-yard deep cross, and we can have a crazy quarterback like Pat Mahomes, who's got a huge arm, ex-baseball player, and he can load up and drop the ball down to his hip and throw it as far as he can throw it across the field. And we got this running back who we think can, hey, if it's not there, we'll dump it down to him. But at the end of the day, we're going to sling this thing all the way across. And guess what? They've shown that some of that works. And then, well, wow, what if we're at Miami and maybe we can get one of these whiz kid coaches and we can get him in here and we can trade for Hill. And we can take our quarterback, and guess what? Maybe we can get him to sling it all the way. And then, hey, some of that is okay. I think it gives you that quick bang. But at the end of the day, if you're not able to run the football in the National Football League, people will figure out a way to stop you. And guess what? Don't take any. For 1 second, don't think it's any different. The only way you can stop the run, if you're okay up front, is to bring one more down into the box. That means if you're blocking with 7, we're bringing 8. If you're blocking with 8, we're going to bring 9. And defenses will absolutely say, if you want to play, you want to throw the ball all over the place, fine. We don't have to worry about playing the run. We can play a numbers game on the back end. But if you're not able to run the football and have some ability to run the football, I don't believe you win in the NFL. And I don't believe you win when it's time to win.
I agree with that, Coach.
We talk all the time. Oh, let's get a dome stadium in Cleveland. Let's get a dome stadium. I know it's cute. That's great. 72 degrees and all that's great. But at the end of the day, you're still going to have teams that you're going to have to go win in Green Bay. They ain't putting no roof on Green Bay. They ain't going to put a roof in Pittsburgh. They're not going to put a roof in places where, guess what? November, December, January, Okay, load up and throw that thing all the way across the field when it's about 4 outside, and see how it works for you. And
Coach,
so I just think
agree
there's
with
a
you.
difference in all that.
I agree with you. Running the ball is still incredibly important, and you have to be effective and efficient. I just think some teams, including the Cowboys, believe that the runner isn't necessarily the most important part. And that's why if you look at the last 10 Super Bowl winners, and you have guys like LeGarrette Blount and Isaiah Pacheco, and those guys is like the leading rushers of those teams, they're fine players, but they're not Emmitt Smith and Barry Sanders or anything like that. I think that's the approach the Cowboys have taken, especially now that they're paying Dak Prescott so much money. CeeDee Lamb, they've got to cut back somewhere.
We got it in.
There you go.
How's that website, by the way, Marcus? Is it
doing
still
great? It was about 8 years ago that I bought it, and it was a big deal.
Good for you, man. I like it. I like the entrepreneurial spirit. All right. Well, when we come back, Cowboys rumors they've died down a little bit. We know that we're going to have to wait and see what happens in training camp. But there was, I think, a noteworthy signing in the NFC East. I want to get your thoughts on that when we come back. Also, we have a Micah Parsons update, and former Cowboys great Danny White is going to join the show coming up in about 15 minutes from now. We're just getting started. Great to be with you on this Thursday. Training camp less than a week away. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. All right. Well, as you know, it's this time of the year, and we're getting close to training camp, as I said, but summer sports are in full swing. And whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach, like I did. It's easy to use. FanDuel is fast to pay out and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. And whether you're placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like you are part of the action. So if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. It's that easy. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, welcome back to the Cowboys Squad Show. Marcus Mosher and the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith, happy to be with you. Former Cowboy Danny White's going to join us here in just a little bit. All right, wanted to get your thoughts on veteran Von Miller signing with the Washington Commanders. Been a lot of talk, a lot of hype for the Eagles, obviously, the defending Super Bowl champs, but the Commanders who play the Eagles, they're trying to take that next step, and they signed Von Miller, who's been banged up, but can still bring it when he's healthy. What do you guys think?
I think this is a move that the Cowboy fans wanted a long time ago with Dan Quinn bringing in Von Miller. He lives right in the Dallas area. And it's just funny now that Dan Quinn's gone, he's signing all these guys like Bobby Wagner, who the Cowboys wanted as well. But I think the bigger point for me is this Washington team feels old, right? They have Bobby Wagner, who's 35. Von Miller's, I think, 35 or 36 now. You look at their entire defense. Marshawn Lattimore's in his late 20s. I would be concerned if I'm a Washington fan that this is a defense that could start the year fast, but really tail off as we get to the end of the year. They had to go out and make a signing like Von Miller because they just didn't have any juice at the edge. They lost Dante Fowler. Dorrance Armstrong is their number one pass rusher. They needed to make a move, but my gosh, this defense is old.
Yeah, and we know that nobody's ever outrun Father Time. It's one of those things that when we know that Von Miller, if healthy, he can still cause you some problems offensively. But I'll also say this. I'll go back to what we said in the last segment. At 36 years old, go run the football at him. Go line up one of your younger guys and go bust him in the mouth. And that's I'm sorry, I'm being kind of old school today, but that's how I see the game. I mean, you want to just think you can line up out there and spin around like a ballerina and do all these pass rush moves and all. That's great. How about if we just run the ball right at you? So again, the thought of being able to have a guy like that, I think it gives you. You mentioned they lost Fowler, and I think that that's kind of what they're trying to replace him with. But at the end of the day, 36 is awful old to be. And I'm saying you're getting not old. You're getting long in the tooth from a defensive standpoint, especially in the interior line where there's collisions happening every play.
And Jeff, I want to mention that we actually spoke with David Harrison, the host of the Locked On Commanders podcast. That show will be coming out on Friday, kind of about Washington's offseason, where they're at. And even before the Von Miller news broke, he was concerned about the age of the defense and the lack of speed because their linebackers, Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu, they both played over 1,200 regular season snaps last year. And it was just painfully obvious once they got to the postseason that those guys were worn out. And I think another year without really anybody to step in and fill in for them and, kind of replace them, that's a concern for Washington. I think this defense has a lot of big names with Wagner, Von Miller, Marshawn Lattimore, but you're trying to find the young stars on this defense, and they just don't really have very many.
Yeah. I like to say, too, I say this a lot, that it's all about the season, right? And what you did last season, there's no guarantee that it's going to carry over or you're going to be able to do the exact same thing or even better the following season. That's what you hope for. That's what you try for. But my point is that the Commanders kind of snuck up on everybody last season. They were kind of a flashy, new, special kind of team. They had a great season, and it just kind of built and built and built. Well, they're not going to be, under the radar this season. Everybody knows who they are and what they do. And to your point, with the age, they're going to know how to attack them and go after them, like Coach said. So it's going to be interesting. We'll see.
And we should mention one of the.
You're going to get guys. Go ahead.
I was going to say, just one of the things that David mentioned, and please check out that show on Friday, is that Cliff Kingsbury has been somebody who has always done really well in year one, but year two, once teams have a little bit of time to adjust to him, he hasn't done a great job of making adjustments and being ready for that next step. So this is a division that has not had a repeat winner over the last 20 or 30 years, last 20 years. And it's because once you have those expectations and that target on your back, it gets really, really hard. And with Washington going from a fourth place schedule to a second place schedule, it's going to be a challenge for them to get to 10 wins.
And that's what guys do. That's what defensive coordinators do and offensive coordinators do in the offseason. Hey, give me these new offenses. Let's see some of the guys that led the league in offense. Let's take a look at what they're doing. Let's study what they're doing. Let's take a look at what they're really got going from a protection standpoint. We know the quarterback was running around a bunch. Are they sound in what they're doing from a protection standpoint? You spend a little more time studying those guys. You spend a little more time breaking down what they do. And like I said before, if you have some certain, some certain things that are working, guys can cause you problems when you don't and you're not able to adjust. And I'm saying having both a running and a throwing game and then being able to do some of everything, because if you cannot do that, defenses will make you one-dimensional. And so I believe the same thing. I think you're going to see defensive coordinators around the league are going to study what Washington did. You can say, well, it's the same blueprint Cliff Kingsbury had out there when he was with Arizona, and maybe some of the same things are there, just different personnel. And so Zach Ertz, I think, is the only guy that came with him from Arizona. But again, you got to think about guys spending time and breaking down the film and looking at what you do and how they can cause you problems. And you better be able to adjust, and you better have some answers other than just saying, I'm going to go hang out in Thailand this offseason and frolic around, and I'm going to roll out the same game plan I did the year before.
And I think they're hoping that the addition of Deebo Samuel will make their screen game better, but you've got to have variations off that. And that's one of the things that Cliff struggled with in Arizona. And that's why he's not the head coach in Arizona anymore. So not to say that this Washington team is going to be bad, because I think Dan Quinn's a really good coach. And I think Jaden Daniels is a really good quarterback, but you're going to have to evolve. You're going to have to get better. And this, to me, just seems like a very old roster. And we know that old rosters generally don't do particularly well in the NFL, especially late in the season. So that's something I'm going to be keeping my eye on.
All right. And you have an unhappy Terry McLaurin as well.
Yep.
So that can't help. Just kind of the opposite of the vibe that the Cowboys have going into their camp. Sticking with the signings, we brought this up on Monday night. Not only is Micah trying to get his deal done, but Cowboys rookie second-round pick Donovan Ezeraku is still waiting to do his deal, and he, along with all the other second-round picks, 2 of them signed already, complete 100% guaranteed deals. But last night, the 49ers signed their second-round pick, defensive tackle Alfred Collins, not fully guaranteed, but pretty close. Instead of $10.3 million, which would have been the guarantee, he gets $9 million. So what does that say to you? Is there like a little wiggle room between 90 and 100%?
A little bit. Good for Alfred Collins for getting that much guaranteed money. It's quite a bit more than Max Melton got, who was the same second-round pick at that spot the year before.
Yeah.
I would expect that these deals to start coming in pretty quick, especially with teams reporting to camp. I know the Raiders report today, Cowboys report next week. I would expect, I think Donovan Ezeraku was the pick 1 selection before Alfred Collins, which means there shouldn't be a lot of wiggle room. Maybe you just give him a half of a percentage point more than what Alfred Collins got. I would expect to see by the end of this weekend most of these deals completed.
Okay. That's good. That's encouraging.
You know, I think you got so many of these guys who were wanting some of that guaranteed money. I don't know why it's been the second round. I don't know if it's the language in the contract. I don't know if it's how it's slotted. I don't know.
Part of it is that the top 2 second-round picks, Carson Schlesinger and Jaden Higgins, picked 33 and 34. They got fully guaranteed deals from their teams. So I think the rest of the second round was hoping that their teams would follow suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're slotted for a reason, right? That's kind of where they think you. That's kind of where they think you fit in the scheme of things. So, I don't know. I've always been for the players to get their money and to get what they think they deserve, because obviously it's such a short time span that you can play in the National Football League. But I also think that we're getting a little out of context when you start on fully guaranteed money in a sport that's as physical as it is.
Well, and we should say there's 1 second-round pick that could hold this entire thing up, and that's Quinshon Judkins from the Browns, who I believe got picked at like 35 or 36. He's wanted a fully guaranteed deal this entire time because his teammate, Carson Schlesinger, got it. But because of the new domestic violence case, it doesn't seem like the Browns are in any hurry to give him a fully guaranteed contract. So I guess there is a chance that we still see a holdup with these, early second-round picks.
Yeah, you'll get you a couple of nights in the Crowbar Hilton. That hurts your guaranteed money.
You would think.
All right, and not only are the Cowboys counting down to the start of training camp, they are also on the clock to get that deal done with Micah Parsons. And in the latest update, Micah, I guess, had a football camp, his camp in Pennsylvania, and said afterwards that he is using the stalemate as motivation to work harder. And he also gave the reporter there, quote, "I'm going to get mine no matter what." So,
I also watched the podcast this morning with Micah and The Undertaker, which is kind of random.
Oh, really?
Talking about the contract situation. And Micah says that he's going to be at camp. We'll see how much he's going to participate, but he's got to be on the field with his teammates. But he flat out said, the Cowboys are handling this wrong. Like, I want to be there. I want to get a contract done. They're making this way more complicated than it needs to be. And I kind of agree with him. Like Micah said, he wanted to get a deal done last offseason, but Stephen Jones told him that they got to get Dak and CD done first. and Micah should have got a deal last offseason. It's just a mess. They'll get it done, but it doesn't need to be this dramatic every single time.
All right.
Well, I mean, let's say let's take the other part of it out there, which was Micah stepped in, talked to Jerry, and you know what, was without the agent, and I guarantee you they were really close to where they needed to be, and then the agent stepped in and said, wait a minute, you know, we need to do this and this here, and so
yeah,
I'm like you. I mean, I really believe the groundwork is laid for what the deal needs to be. Does Jerry want a 5-year deal? Probably so. Would Micah like a 3-year deal? Yeah, but he ain't going to get it. So now are they going to settle at about 4 and then, you know, figure out what the money is, which I believe that base number is out there. Do I believe that it matters what TJ Watt's going to get in if he stays in Pittsburgh? No. Do I think Trey Hendrickson now, because of the situation with Shamar Stewart, is going to get his money up in Cincinnati? Does that have anything to do with Mike? No, because both those guys are 30 years old, and Micah's 5 years younger.
26. Yep.
Yeah, 4 years younger. So I just don't see I don't see like a lot of people are saying, well, it's an apples to apples deal. He wants to see what TJ Watt gets. To me, that TJ Watt's not going to get close to the number that Mike is going to get.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
All right. We'll leave it at that, and we'll get into that a lot more next week. But when we come back, we are going to be joined by the other number 11 for the Cowboys, the original great Danny White is going to join us now live. We're going to do that when we come back. It's great to be with you on this Thursday. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. All right, that was quick, and we are back. Welcome back to the Cowboys Squad Show. Marcus Mosher, the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith, and joining us now live. It is a pleasure to have on the program former Cowboys great, former Cowboy quarterback, Danny White. Danny, how are you, buddy? It's great to see you. You're looking good, and I'm sure your body clock kind of automatically goes off this time of the year as we get close to training camp.
Well, a little bit, Jeff. Not quite as much as it used to, but the clock runs slower and slower all the time. But it is football season coming up, and to be honest with you, I do feel a little bit of angst when weather starts cooling off and time for football.
Amen. Well, before I turn it over to the guys and let them jump in, you know this team, you've covered them, and you know the injuries and what happened with Dak. I'm curious, with all that said, with Dak coming back and new coaching staff and some new additions, how do you feel about this team as they get ready for training camp?
Jeff, I haven't followed the Cowboys as close as I used to. I'm involved out here with Arizona State and trying to help Kenny Dillingham keep doing what he started last year. And but the Cowboys, it's the offseason, and there's never any lack of drama when it comes to the Cowboys in the offseason. I just don't pay a lot of attention to it because most of it is just talk. And we'll see when the season rolls around. I feel like I've felt every year they've got one of the best rosters talent-wise of any team in the league. I don't think anybody's got a more talented roster. I think there are problems with leadership, with locker room chemistry. Some of the intangibles are lacking, in my opinion, when it comes to the Cowboys and their performance year in and year out.
All right. Guys, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, I do think this is one of the better rosters in the league, but you don't really know until you get to training camp, and you don't really know until those games start to happen. But we need to see this coaching staff, Brian Schottenheimer and the rest of the guys, Matt Eberflus, maximize the talent. And I think that's been the biggest concern or the biggest issue for the Cowboys over the last 10 years or so is we felt like they've had really good rosters. There was a tweet out there the other day that the Cowboys have drafted the most all-pro players in the league over the last 15 years, but it feels like that it hasn't always been used to its fullest potential. So we'll see how good the talent is this year. We'll see how good the coaching staff is, but I think there are a lot of Cowboy fans that are optimistic about their chances this year.
Yeah,
Danny, let me ask you, working in what you're doing at Arizona State, you're seeing these young kids today with these NIL deals. Now it's coming out in the NCAA with revenue sharing. I know as a college player yourself, you'd like to have been born in today's world, making the kind of money these guys are making in college. Do you see a difference with the young people today in how you're looking at transitioning from college football into the NFL and how the money has changed some of these younger kids?
Yeah, I feel like money is changing the game, and not necessarily for the better. I love to see college players getting paid. I think that the problem in college as well as in the NFL is the money's going to a few guys, and it's not getting spread out to the guys behind the scenes. You know, Dak is getting a lot of money, and I'm not privy to the all the details in terms of his contract and where that money's going and how it's being paid out. What I do know is, and I hope that the guys that are making it possible for Dak to make that money are sharing in that, and I don't know that they are. You know, the guys up front, the receivers, and guaranteed money, I think is really hurting the game, because anytime you guarantee a player money and he doesn't have to go out and earn it, you're gonna lose some incentive. You're gonna lose a little bit of dedication, and these players they're not motivated to go out and play and put their head down and get that extra yard and perform like they were without the guaranteed money. And I think that's a problem not only in the NFL but also in college. I see the quarterbacks getting a lot of money in college. Is that money being spread out? I don't know. I would love to see it go into a pool and have a system set up where players get paid based on their position and how much they play, how much they produce, and not all go to one or two guys. That to me is the problem right now, especially in college football.
Danny, I got a quick question. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Coach. Go ahead.
I want to follow up, Danny, with this. You out there at Arizona State, we saw the job that Kenny Dillingham did a great job. And, you talk about spreading money around. We look at the college game and you think everything is about the SEC. And then maybe after the SEC, maybe you got the Big Ten. You saw what Kenny Dillingham was able to do at Arizona State, which was put his team in position to play, just absolutely bounce blows off the University of Texas Longhorns. It is the college game. Can it get on flat ground? And do you feel like there's a place for, Big 12 teams now that they're going to expand this college football playoff?
Yeah, I think the portal is making it possible for teams to turn things around very, very quickly, as we saw Arizona State do last year. Kenny Dillingham just put a magical formula together. He brought in guys that were, basically rejects. They were not getting what they wanted where they were playing, and they shopped around and they found Kenny Dillingham in Arizona State, and he went out, and I love his mentality. His mentality is not to go after necessarily the best athletes, the 5-star rated football players. He's going to get guys who want to play football, who want to be at Arizona State, who have something to prove, and that's what he built his team around last year. Now, again, the portal brings its huge benefits and a chance for someone like Kenny to turn things around quickly, but it also has its drawbacks. Players can leave very quickly, and fortunately, Kenny has tied up his coordinators, he's tied up his quarterback, and Sam Levitt is getting a lot of money. I hope some of that's going to his offensive linemen and to his receivers somehow, some way. I kind of doubt that it is, but again, I'm not privy to all that. And the same thing with the Cowboys and Dak. I just think that money needs to get spread around a little bit.
All right, Danny. I first of all, it's fantastic to meet you. I got to ask you a question because you were my dad's favorite player of all time, and my dad's the reason I became a Cowboy fan and why I'm doing this podcast. But one of the things that we always admired about your game, and I know this is just a part of it, was your ability to punt. And we don't ever see quarterbacks punt anymore in the league. But I wanted to ask you, when did this start? Did you punt in college, high school, or was this just an NFL thing?
I was according to my mom, I was kicking about 3 months before I was born. So hunting and even place kicking has when I was in high school, I place kicked, I punted, I played offense, I played defense, I played special teams, I returned kicks. So it was no big deal. When I got to college, things were specialized a little bit more, but I still punted. So I've punted all my life, and it was no big deal for me. And everybody made a big deal out of it. The fans, the media, everybody. How can you do this? How can a quarterback also be the punter? It's just something I did all my life. I just stand back there and catch the ball and kick it. And in fact, it was an advantage to having played quarterback or being a quarterback in that I could catch the ball, catch the snap, and look at the rush at the same time because I got used to doing it as a shotgun quarterback. And so a lot of times if they didn't rush or if they only rushed one guy and everybody else turned in a return, I would just run with it. And if they came off and saw me, I would still go ahead and kick it there. And Coach Landry seemed to think it was a risky play, but I didn't because I could always punt it. I could be 10 yards downfield if it was 4th and 20. And if I saw I wasn't going to make it, I could still kick the ball. So that was an advantage, having played the quarterback or being a quarterback and also punting in that there was that
element. And I think there were like 20 times. I don't know because nobody's ever researched it to find out how many times I did it. But it's like a turnover. You get a first down on 4th down, and it's the same thing as a turnover. So it was kind of a big deal and an advantage that I had having also played quarterback.
I just remember watching those games as a young kid. My dad would have them all on, the VHS. He'd have them all recorded. It was so unique to me as a, 5-year-old football fan seeing the quarterback punt. So I've always wanted to ask you that question. I'm glad I did. So thanks for answering. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.
That's awesome. And I was thinking about it, Danny. One of the things that I've always admired about you and your career, and we've never talked about this, but just the fact that you stepped in to the starting role. I mean, the position in sports at that time, the quarterback of the Cowboys, and you did so after Roger stepped down, and not only the 3 straight NFC Championship games and all of your success and the offensive rankings, but just your character and the way that you handled yourself. You never complained. You never pointed fingers. You never, even though the defense wasn't always on par with the offense, you always handled everything with class, and the media criticism and everything else. And I when I said initially one of the most underappreciated or undervalued Cowboys, I meant that sincerely. And I'm wondering how you think about all that now as you look back and your legacy.
Well, I think more and more I'm grateful for the example that Roger Staubach set for me. He was a great quarterback, a great leader, but he was also a great man, a great husband and father, and I loved watching him off the field as much as I did on the field. And I wanted to follow that example, and I felt like that was the right thing to do, was just to keep my mouth shut and go out and play. I tried to play from an intangible standpoint the way that Roger did, to try to be the kind of leader that he was, and work hard, study hard, That was Tom Landry's philosophy: was you win games by out-studying, out-preparing your opponents, not necessarily by being bigger, stronger, and faster. So between Roger and Coach Landry, I just felt like that was the right way to handle things, and it paid off. You know, we had some great years in the 80s. In the 6 seasons that I was the starter, well, we went to the playoffs, you know, every year and played in 10 playoff games and 3 NFC championship games. So it was a very productive time for the Cowboys, and I think it was because of the type of leadership that was set for me, the example that was set for me by Roger and Coach Landry and others, Leroy Jordan, and you know, the guys that I got to play with in the '70s really set the tone for the way the Cowboys played football.
All right. Well, I think just a final thing, we'll let you get going, Danny. Thank you again for joining us. Back to the quarterback position, and I know you were doing some radio, and you've watched Dak and his career. What do you think of Dak? And I mean, you, as you just said, I mean, you know all about the expectations and the Super Bowl or bust mentality for Cowboys fans. What do you think of Dak and where he's at?
Well, Dak has everything it takes to take a team to the Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. We've seen quarterbacks with less talent than Dak has, with less leadership ability than Dak has, win Super Bowls. I continue to say this about the Cowboys. It's locker room chemistry, it's synergy, it's the intangibles of that football team that are making it difficult for Dak. And that's another thing. Everybody says quarterbacks win Super Bowls, and I could not disagree more. Quarterbacks don't win Super Bowls. A quarterback is the last one that gets to do his job when everybody else does theirs. And then he gets a chance to perform. Dak has not been given that opportunity. And when everything else is in place and they've got the kind of chemistry that it takes and the kind of team, and I mean that football's the greatest team sport ever created, and he has a kind of team around him that it takes to win Super Bowls, he'll do his part. He's got all the ability and all the talent and all of that. He just needs the right supporting cast.
Danny, I got a quick question for you that I wanted to ask. So you didn't become a full-time starter until I think it was age 28 or something like that.
Right.
But now there's such a push to get these guys onto the field as 21, 22-year-olds. How much of an advantage do you think for your career was it to sit for a couple of years and get up to the speed of the NFL? And do you think more of these young quarterbacks would benefit from sitting?
Well, they've got a system now in place where they bring these guys along so quickly. I think in some cases, and it depends on the system, in some cases they can do it. They can come in and start their first year. And, you know, Troy did it right after me, and he got beat up. And I'll tell you, people don't talk about it enough. For Troy to come out of that first year as a rookie and survive and go on to win 3 Super Bowls is an incredible accomplishment, because he got beat up that first year and still had the kind of career he had. But today they've got the systems are in place to make it easier on quarterbacks to start sooner. I benefited from backing up Roger for 4 years, but I also played in the World Football League for 2 years. So I was in my 7th year when I became the starter and only had 6 years as a starter. So my numbers are not up there with guys like Tony Romo and Dak, who played a lot, were starters a lot longer than I was. But I benefit. I would like to have started a couple of years sooner, but sitting behind Roger was not a bad thing. I mean, I could not have paid money to go to a university of football and learn more than I did from watching Roger Staubach.
Amen.
Great answer.
All right, Danny. Well, hey, I can't say thank you enough. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us, and all the best with what you're doing at Arizona State. Hope that goes well, and maybe we'll have you on again down the road. But but thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me on, and good to be with you guys.
All right. God bless. Thank you. Former Cowboy Danny White here on the Cowboys Squad Show. All right, we're going to take our final timeout. When we come back, our final segment and some final thoughts. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. All right, we are back. The Cowboys Squad Show. Marcus Mosher, the coach Glenn Stretch Smith. Our thanks again to former Cowboy great Danny White. That was great. That was awesome to have him
Jeff,
on.
I got to say, so real quick thing.
Yeah.
Danny White was my dad's favorite player. My dad passed away a couple of years ago. And it's pretty surreal being able to have Danny on this podcast. So we really appreciate it. We always talked about his punting ability, and we've always said that I remember my dad and I on some trips back and forth to the hospital talking about how we always thought Danny White didn't get enough credit for how good he was post Roger Staubach. So we really thank Danny for coming on the show.
Yeah, very nice. Coach, did you know Danny much at all, or did you interact with him?
Obviously I knew of his, what he did at Arizona State. I knew what he did, with the Cowboys. You follow as a young guy wanting to get in the game. You follow what he did. You follow how, what a great job he had done transitioning. And that's a tough, he talked about Aikman and how tough that was. I mean, can you imagine how tough it must have been replacing Roger Staubach? That's not a place you want to be in. I mean, I was thinking, prepping for a radio show today, and I'm thinking about Kellen DeBoer, and he went 9-4 last year at Alabama, and that's not good enough. And you think, man, you don't want to be the guy that replaces the man. You want to be the guy that replaces the guy that replaced the man. And I think it's a hard position to be in. And it's not his fault, right? I mean, he was just the next in line. That's a tough position to be in. I mean, you talk about going to 3 NFC championship games. Hell, the Cowboys would die to go to an NFC championship game right now. And he went to, he did it 3 times with a team post, a Hall of Fame quarterback. So it's a difficult situation to be in. And, he handled it like a professional, and it's still today sounds like he's handling that like a professional with how he goes about, making sure that he gives thanks to Staubach and the time that he got to spend behind him and the time that he got to learn behind him.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that he said, he thought he could start earlier. So that's why he doesn't have the numbers that Tony Romo and Dak have. You can tell that it still bothers him a little bit, right? Like we see all these graphics on Sunday of like all the Cowboys all-time leading passers. And it's, Dak Prescott and Romo and Troy Aikman. And Danny White's one of the best quarterbacks in this franchise's history. And he just doesn't get enough respect and attention. So, again, I'm glad that he was able to pop on this show and kind of defend his honor a little bit.
Yeah.
I thought when he talked that and his mother talked about how he was going to be a kicker when he was in the womb. I thought he was going to say he was born at the wrong time. He'd like to be born, 20 years later, so he could have gotten himself in the position to make more money and play in a game that's more friendly to the quarterback.
Yeah. And I think I didn't mention, but I mean, he was actually, an excellent punter, like a top 5 punter every season. And you think about it, kind of like one of the original first two-way players, right? Quarterback and punter.
Yeah, I miss those days. Remember when George Blanda played for like 50 years because he was able to be, be the place kicker as well. Yeah. I wish we had more of that in the NFL. And maybe this is why I like Travis Hunter so much. The league has become so specialized that I think we miss these guys that are able to do a lot of different things. And having a Danny White was fun, right? And I remember when Tom Brady used to punt the ball a little bit, and that kind of stuff was fun. Doug Flutie did the drop kick. So I think those little things make football one of the most fun sports in the world.
Yeah, no doubt. And the other thing too is he suffered a gruesome broken wrist injury on a sack by Carl Banks, did Danny White, and that's what kind of derailed the end of his career, and he just was never able to throw it quite the same way. Can't even imagine that. But Hope he's able to golf okay.
Yeah. Carl Banks is mad at me on Twitter, by the way. It should.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, he got a little upset when I was talking to him about Jalen Smith a couple years ago when the Giants signed him. But yeah, that's all right. That's a Twitter beef from a long time ago.
Okay. Oh, we got to get you guys to make up, and
that's okay. It's not a big deal.
All right, guys. Well, we just got a few minutes left. We've talked about Micah and his thing, and I'm curious, Marcus, you and Landon did some deeper dive shows, and you went over. We mentioned the rankings on Monday night. We didn't really get into it too much, but Dak dropping.
I got one thing I wanted to ask Coach. That show came out this morning on the Locked On Cowboys podcast channel, wherever you get your podcast. The Cowboys have 4 players ranked inside the top 100. The highest was Micah Parsons, coming in at 8th overall. Coach, I wanted to ask you this. Micah was the second-ranked edge rusher behind Myles Garrett, but he was the second-ranked overall defensive player in the league. Do you think that Micah right now, going into 2025, is the second best overall defensive player in the NFL?
You know, I look at it from and this is, kind of different how I see how all of these rankings come out and, excuse me, how you look at guys. I know this, that when you, as an offensive coach, if you're going in to play the Cowboys, you flip the film on, and okay, you've already got it sorted, okay, from down and distance to fronts to stunts to coverages. You've already got all that done. If you flip the film on and constantly 11 jumps out at you, which he's going to do, I would find it hard pressed to believe that you would be in a position where you would have to change your game plan more than you would for number 11. And I'm talking about how you turn your protections, how you send your back out, what you do with getting the football out from throwing the football, because he is an absolute, in my mind, he jumps off the film at you. And so, I guess you could say 1A, 1 or 2 is fine. I don't know of another player right now that when I initially asked you, who do you have to game plan more from an offensive standpoint? I think the first guy that comes to mind, and I'm trying to take my, I'm not drinking the blue Kool-Aid this morning. I'm not doing any of that. I really do believe it's Micah Parsons.
I think it's Micah as well. And the edge rusher position, I think, is the most valuable position on defense because you can't really take those guys out of the game. I mean, you can try to double them, but Micah is so versatile that you can line him up over a center. You can pick your offensive lineman. I do think he's the second best defensive player in the league. And I think the Locked On host got it right, ranking him 8th overall.
Right.
Yeah. I've always thought, and we've argued this on the show that I'm on. I mean, in today's football, let me say it the other way. Used to, when you built a defense, you always built it from the front back. Is Jacksonville trying to swim against the stream by saying, hey, we're going to build it with his shutdown corner, and then we're going to build it from the back forwards? I've always believed you got to sack the quarterback, number one, and then you've got to be able to, you got to be able to shut down half of the field. And if you can do that on the back end, and you can do that with a secondary player, you've got a chance. I was thinking this too when you mentioned a defensive end. To me, if you get the guy inside who is big time, and I'm thinking about this because Ndamukong Suh just retired, and you had, you think about Aaron Donald and what he did for the Rams and how he absolutely made you have to double team him, then all of a sudden that edge rusher became that much more of a problem. So if you have a dominant force inside, I agree. If you've got the end who can come screaming off the end, it's invaluable. But boy, if you've got that guy inside who can eat up the double team, and I look at what Philadelphia has done with Carter. I look at how Pittsburgh has done it with Cam Hayward, who I don't think gets enough credit.
No.
You got to have that kind of Batman and Robin mentality with the inside guy too. But no question, Micah can line up anywhere on the football field and cause you. He can line up as a linebacker. He can line up as an end. Hell, he can come down inside in nickel situations and cause you problems.
All right. So what else we got before we let you go, Marcus? What else we got coming up?
Yeah, we've got that show with David Harrison from Locked On Commanders. That'll be coming out on Friday. And then we're into training camp next week. The Cowboys kick off some practices. Landon's going to be out in Oxnard watching the practices, doing YouTube shorts, TikTok live. So make sure you check that out.
Yeah, we're trying to get the daily Locked On Cowboys TikTok platform up, right?
Coach, are you on TikTok?
No.
All right.
Not sorry. You want me to tell you what I think you want to hear? You want me to tell you the truth?
I wanted you to tell me the truth. I could have bet my house that you were going to say no, but that's all right.
Oh, is that why you gave it the
Yes.
little chuckle like you were in the front car of the runaway mine train when I gave you the
100%. 100%.
All right. On that note, we will leave it there for today, but we will join you on Monday when the Cowboys will be reporting Monday night, as the Cowboys will already be at training camp in Oxnard getting ready for their first day on the field. Can't wait.
Let me ask you something.
Okay.
Marcus, can you get TikTok on channel 19 of the CB, or how do you get it on there?
No, you cannot.
Okay. I mean, I'll give it. I can give it a try. I'm not afraid to.
I don't know if the world is ready yet for Coach to be on TikTok. I think we still need a couple years.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm fixing to go work out with my 18-year-old son, and I'm going to hand him this flip phone I got. And I'm going to see if I can get that. I'm going to see if I can get that. Well, how do you spell it? TikTokers?
TikTok. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. TikTokers. There you go.
TikTok. Okay. I'll see it. I'm going to work on that. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you this. By the next time that we're on here, I'm going to have figured out a way, even if it's by Morse code, I'm going to figure out a way to see if I can get on this TikTok scenario.
I cannot wait. This is my life dream right here. It's going to be amazing.
Boy.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You're going to talk to your counselor today and tell him, man, I've uncovered something new here.
Coach and TikTok. That could be spectacular. Yeah,
I'm getting on it. I'm gonna tell you, if I have to go get myself a new phone, if I have to go get a new CB handle, if I've got to go get a new antenna on the roof of the house, I'm getting on it.
I love it. Awesome. All right, we look forward to that, and we look forward to the start of Cowboys training camp on Monday. Until then, have a great weekend. Be sure and check out Marcus Mosher and Landon McCool on the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast. And if you're driving around, be sure and catch the coach on radio.
And TikTok soon.
Like that. Right. And TikTok soon.
Hey,
Coming soon.
I mean, you are really promoting it. Let me see if do you have to have a handle to get on that?
Yeah, you got to have a handle. We'll come
up
with
a
a
username.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be on it by next Thursday. I mean, the countdown has started, man. The clock is ticking. So look, quit crapping around, Jeff Biggs. I got to go figure out how to download.
Let's go.
Crap.
All right. Let's do it. Right. We'll do a special episode on that one, Marcus. Awesome. All right. Thank you to everybody. Thank you again to Danny White. We'll talk to you on Monday night. This has been the Cowboys Squad Show.